Hello crafty cuties! Hope you guys are doing well. Today I'm going to share with you the process to create a very interactive page. I've done this design before. I'm not saying I invented it. I honestly don't know where I came up with the idea. A lot of times I will combine different ideas and turn it into one page when I'm doing an interactive page, and I think that's what I did here. So I am going to create this page for this junk journal here, and I just have a few blank spots where I wanted to create some pages and show you guys the process. So let's get started. I'm going to use a piece of printer paper for the base, as we are going to be matting it, and so it's going to become pretty thick. And this is 10 inches by 5.5 inches. Now you can change up the measurements here pretty easily, so keep that in mind. 10 inches I think is a good width, but you can change up the height depending on the size of your junk journal. So you can see that I chose 5.5 because it's just a little bit shorter than my pages, and I think that that works well, as we will have a pocket at the top. Okay, so we're going to basically start with this page here, and we're going to create something that looks something like this. So I will show you how I got here real quick and easy. I'm not using a scoring board today. I just wanted to show you how to do this real simple. I am going to also be using my sewing machine, but you can do this with glue or double-sided tape, and then have some decorative papers handy as well. Okay, so I'm going to make 2 marks on the 10-inch side here, and the first is going to be where we will fold in the first flap, and I measured mine at about 2 3/4 in. So I'm just going to take my ruler here. I'll bring you guys in a bit, and I'm going to just mark with my pencil right at 2 3/4. Now I came up with these measurements just by trial and error, to be honest. I just took the piece of paper and I folded in where I thought it would look good, so you can definitely modify this depending on what size of flaps that you would like to have. So I'm just going to mark at 2 3/4, and then I'm going to do the same over here. So we will go 2 3/4, and I will mark my spot. And then I'm just going to go ahead and fold in at those marks. Real simple. This does not have to be perfect. So you keep in mind that these flaps, if you're going to make them into a pocket, which I'm going to do, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that, just keep that in mind. If you were wanting specific tags or something to fit in those, then you will want to make your flap be the appropriate size. Okay, so you can see we basically have one that overlaps, and you can do that either way. Okay, so now what I wanted to do is add a little bit of interest, and so to do that I actually am going to, we're going to cut off one piece from one, and then we'll cut off a piece from the opposite corner. So again, I'm going to take my ruler, and I want the flaps to each be 3.5 inches tall. That seems like a good height, especially if you wanted to put like a little journaling card or whatnot in. So I'm going to just go ahead, and again I'm going to use a pencil and mark at 3.5 inches. I'm going to have this right side of the flap, I'm going to trim at the top. So I'm going to just mark where 3.5 inches is. And this does not have to be perfect. And then I'm going to do the opposite for this side. So over here I will be cutting off from the bottom portion of this flap, and so again I will measure 3.5 inches down. So we will go right here. Okay, there we go. So then again, you can use your ruler if you want to make sure that these edges are straight. So I'm actually just going to use this because it's convenient, and I will go ahead and just use my ruler, line it up with that fold mark, and then I can just use the pencil here to draw the lines where we will cut. And so I'll do the same over here. It's usually pretty straight if you line your ruler edge up with either the edge of a paper or a fold mark. There we go. So now we can just go ahead and trim and remove the unwanted pieces. So if you can see, I lightly drew on the lines there, and I'm just going to cut down the line. And you could definitely add a really pretty decorative top if you would like, if that even made sense. I don't know if a punch would work too well since this is attached to something in the middle here, but you could definitely get creative here. So we will just trim and remove this, and then we will have the base of our page. So I already have my matted pieces cut down to size. Again, this might change depending on what size you are going to be doing, but mine is 2 3/4 by 3.5 inches for the flaps. So I'm going to cover the outside flaps like so, and I'm going to show you how I will make these pockets. Now you could very well cover the back side as well if you wanted to have like a double pocket or just to make it pretty. I did not do that at least yet. And then I wanted to have a piece for the center here. This piece measures 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And then I also made a piece for the back side, and I'll show you how we will attach that so that this whole piece can open like so it can flip open. And this piece is about 5 inches by 5.5 inches. Go ahead and decorate your matted pieces however you wish. If you want to add some embellishments or any type of lace, fabric, anything like that, you can go ahead and do that now or at the end. I'm going to go ahead and just show you the base of this. So we're gonna get started by adding our pockets on these flaps here. So I am actually going to go ahead and sew around the 3 corners. Now, if you don't have a sewing machine, you can definitely just add some adhesive around the edges like so. You do want to get it pretty close to the edges, and then you can go ahead and adhere it to the flaps here. So I'm gonna head over to the sewing machine so that I can go ahead and sew these 2 flaps on. I will also then sew on this middle mat, and I will show you how to sew on the back piece. We are going to go ahead and make one more fold mark, and so we want this to be 4 1/4 since that's what this page, this middle page is. And so I took my ruler and I mark at 4 1/4. I already did that, and then I actually am going to fold like so. Again, this is because I want this whole page to to flip open, and it'll make more sense once we're all done with it. But let's head over to the sewing machine. I do think I'm going to add a little folder pocket right here using some ribbon, so keep that in mind. All right, I'll go ahead and sew on this first flap. Make sure that you know where the top of your page is, so if you were creating this into a pocket as I'm doing, that the opening will be at the top. And you don't have to create this into a pocket. You can definitely just mat the full page and it would still be very interactive. So I'm gonna go ahead and just line this up right. I'm not using any adhesive before. I just want to go ahead and sew it directly on. So it is a little tricky getting it in here at this angle, but that's all right. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and sew straight down and around. I don't do a back stitch very often, to be honest, guys. I try. Okay, so you can see this stitch is not straight at all. I'm okay with that, but since it is so wonky, I'm actually just gonna go ahead and do a second stitch, and I'm gonna do a cross stitch. I think it just makes things look a little bit more intentional that way. Alright, there we go. So now we have the two flaps, and so now I'm going to go ahead and add this centerpiece. So you can see that after adding a bunch of layers, this copy paper is definitely you know, strong enough to hold up. Okay, so I'm gonna add this little pocket on first, like I mentioned. And so I am actually just going to sew this straight onto the mat. Now I'm going to sew on the mat to the middle part. Now you could definitely sew on your back mat at the same time, but I find that things slip around a little bit too much, so I'm going to do them separate. Okay, so I have decided to actually just go ahead and glue the back part on. So you can see we have a pocket here and here. When you open it up, we have this little mini pocket for something, you know, that would be visible. And then we have a pocket right back here. Now you can definitely add the back mat on so that you have like a double pocket here, but I think this is enough pockets to be completely honest. So I am going to just show you how we can adhere this straight down. So remember we made that fold mark, and you can make yours on either side depending on which orientation you want it to be folding. So I am going to just go ahead and add it on here. So I will just add glue to the area that we are gluing, obviously. Just glue that on down. I accidentally folded the wrong side at first, so if you are wondering why there is a fold mark over there. Okay. So this is just on here so that it will be pretty when we flip it. Okay, so there we go. So now you can see that this whole piece will open up, just so that you have more space to work with. Now we can go ahead and add it into our journal. So I am just going to add glue onto the actual flaps. Add our tags or whatever you would like to add to your pockets. Some journaling cards, and there's a spot if you want to add photos or whatever you would like. I decided to go ahead and add some lined paper so that there's kind of a designated spot for journaling, since the pockets do give so much space for photos or tags. And then it just also adds a little bit of variation. I think this is such a fun interactive page, and I hope you will give it a try.